No, 5 Apple, 738. This is Mighty J. FC. Today at 7 p.m. W5FC.
Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Anyone need to use a repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is Whiskey 105 Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority emergency traffic may enter the net at any time using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Discussion topic of the evening. 5. What's up? 6. Space exploration and space history. 7. Constellation of the week. 8. Space launches of the week. 9. Recent astronomical discoveries. 10. Visible satellite. Visible satellite picture passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A. 12. 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So we're going to start with low power and short time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from this evening. Please come now.
Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra. It's Gus, far northeast Dallas. Low power.
Is Bravo number 4, Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
Golf 5, Zulu, India, X-ray, Joe and Wiley. Time copy.
Okay, we got W5GUS, Gus, WB4MFI, Ted, KG5ZIX, Joe. All right, do we have any general check-ins? Please come now.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Oscar Bravo, Philip from Grando.
1 Golf Bravo Delta, Guy up in Lake Island.
This is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
Oh, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Irving.
Let's pick those up. K5KOB, Philip. Kilo India Golf Bravo Delta, Guy. AA5AH, Robert. KF5ZBL, Bill. Next station had so much noise. I got KE5, but I missed all the rest of it. Could you please fill in?
Kilo India 5, Mike India, Bravo. I'm coming in from McKinney, Darling, where it might be right on the edge where I can reach.
Okay, I see on the back channel your KE5MIB. What is your name, please?
Harlan.
Is that Erwin?
Yes, Arlen, A-R-L-A-N.
Okay, Arlen. Then KE5ICX, Tom. N5BB, Bill. Do we have any Echolink check-ins?
Net Control, this is Shane, Blue Springs, Whiskey 0, Mike Bravo Charlie, and
Bethany. Hi, Dallas.
All we got is W0MBC, Shane, and of course Bethany. Any other Echolink check-in?
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman.
F5 PDS Billy. Welcome to the net, everybody. Not any additional general check-ins.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform, Kilo Uniform, David, Mesquite.
Delta 5, Foxtrot Tango November, Nick in Richardson.
Kilo Echo 5, Oscar Echo, William Mansfield. J.I.I. Kilo 5, Juliet, India, Jim, Marcoing.
Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
Yes, Kilo Bravo 5, Delta Mike Charlie, Brian Corona.
The signal's just went to pot here. I'm missing a lot of data. But I've got KF5GHHS and KG5UKU David. Then I think it's K5F10. Missing a name. Could you come back with that?
It's KB5FTN. The name is Nick, and I'm in Richardson.
Still didn't get your name.
Is Nick, N-I-C-K.
Okay, Nick, thanks. Then the next one is just KE5. We'll pick that up later. The next one is Jim. I got K5 and missed the rest. Could you please repeat?
Yes, Jim, K5JII, Kilo 5, Juliet, India.
Okay, Jim, I got K5JII, then K5KTX, Kelly, and then KB5DMC, Brian. The next one is totally unintelligible. So if you know it was you, please try again.
It might have been me. Oh, crap. Okay, removing the echo link. Echo, KG5BTW.
Yes. Welcome to the net, Jay. Anybody else?
This is Oscar Echo, Lee in Mansfield. Is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in North Carrollton.
We had a double. I got KG5, W Victor, Whiskey Victor Lima, James. Who was the other one I missed? Maybe they'll come back later. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronaut, space, or of general interest to licensed hams.
KE5ICX.
KE5ICX. Go ahead, Tom.
And I just want to remind everyone that tomorrow evening is the meeting on the air, VotaNet, starting at 7 o'clock, and find out all about what's going on with the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. So it's always the first and third Sunday. I believe tomorrow is the third Sunday. Come on by. Everybody is welcome to check in. And that's it from me for right now. KE5ICX.
Tom, thank you. And I want to wish everybody a happy vernal equinox. That's today. It should be a bigger deal. We should have chocolate and presents and decorations, but we don't. All right, other announcements. The AMSAT Radio Amateurs Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central, you'll need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net on their groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website. It's amsatnet.com. This originates in Houston. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, TL 110.9 megahertz, Tuesdays. Tom, N5HYP is net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club night, so no AMSAT East night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, positive offset. So, let's see, we've got Mondays, first and third week are hand fixins. Second week is MCOM 101. Fourth week is GeekNet. Fifth week, if we have one, Surprise Net. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays, AMSAT East at 8 a.m. Fridays, CERT City. And you don't want to move there. That is a bad place to live. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, is usual net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. CERT City, all are welcome. Saturdays, TechNet, 7 to 8, and of course, Skynet. First and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air, SPOTA. Daily lunch brunch at 12 noon, Monday through Friday. It's always a survey question. And the ARRL Net National Traffic System Training Net every night at 6:30 p.m. Central. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. Wait, there's more. There's an Afterglow movie net right after this net, about 10:30 every Saturday night. And we look for the best movies that we can possibly find, and we watch them, and then we discuss them. Tonight's Afterglow info, Wickus looked above. The giant spaceship kept creeping closer and closer to the giant flying saucer. Apparently, alien invasion was in full swing in the 1980s, and yet another invading armada was claiming space above a major city, in this case, Johannesburg. So, a bunch of visitors in their spiffy red uniforms and stylish goggles pointed at the other ship. Then the unthinkable, the invading spaceship backup lights came on. In a matter of seconds, a very loud scraping sound came for the new ship. The visitors pointed at the pronounced dent in their spacecraft. They shook their heads. Eventually, the insectoid crew made their appearance. everyone broke out ID and began waving their claws and hands in the air. The Johannesburg Police Department climbed into the helicopters, ready to sort out the intergalactic moving violation. Join us for what is actually a critically acclaimed movie, District 9 from 2009, tonight at 10:30 p.m. You can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Do we have any additional check-ins?
Number 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay on the street.
We recognize November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay. Next up, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. Taz, KF5JHA, do you have information on this?
Yes, thank you, Brenda. The next Texas Astronomical Society Club meeting will be this coming Friday on March the 26th at 7:30 p.m. with Michael Gorton. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Back to Space, based in Richardson, Texas. This talk show, of course, is going to be a Back to Space. Past club members will receive an email sometime this week. It's a Zoom meeting. It's a virtual meeting. Hopefully later this year, the Texas Astronomical Society will resume having face-to-face meetings, I hope. And hopefully we'll resume having public observing stations as well. To get more information, you can check out their website at texasastro.org for lots of information and details, even how to pick out a pair of binoculars or buy a telescope. This is KF5, JJ, back to you, net control. Brenda, thank you.
Yes. Next up, National Space Society events and activities. N5BB. Bill, do you have anything on this?
Hi, Brenda. This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I happen to be the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. If you have any interest in the National Space Society or any questions about any of our activities, you can send me an email at n5bb@arrl.net or space@byrom.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net. National Space Society has a meeting the second Sunday afternoon of each month at 4 p.m. We would normally have it in Irving, but at a restaurant, but of course with the pandemic, we're not doing that right now. And we have it virtually over WebEx. So the March meeting was this last Sunday, March the 14th, and we had a very interesting presentation by two hams. Cynthia Wisnot, N5TFB, and Dietrich Wisnot, KI5L. Yes, that's his new call sign. He used to be KI5NL, but he's now KI5L. So the Dietrichs presented about the Mars Perseverance lander. Yes, it landed successfully, and it's operating very successfully on Mars. And so they gave a 1-hour fantastic presentation about the different features of it and the helicopter and all kinds of other things. If for some reason you would like to see that presentation, it was recorded as an MP4 file, and if you send me an email to the previously mentioned one of those two email addresses, I'll be happy to send you a link so you can look at the presentation yourself. The next meeting will again be virtual and will be the second Sunday of April, which is Sunday afternoon, April the 11th at 4 p.m. I do not yet know the topic for that meeting. And again, we don't have any other local activities right now until we get opened up so that we can go back to meeting with schools and with universities and at museums. Another piece of space news, of course, there was a successful test, I guess successful, it appeared to be successful, a couple of days ago for the SLS, the large Boeing, in conjunction with some other companies, project. And it's a big 4-engine booster. It's kind of like a Saturn V. And so at the Stennis Space Center in Huntsville, Alabama, they tested it for a little over 8 minutes. And for people viewing it, it appeared to be a good test. Also, one more piece of information. There is going to be a NASA webcast involving the Ingenuity Mars helicopter. A lot of people have been asking, when's Ingenuity going to fly? Well, guess what? NASA's finally going to discuss this publicly, SNJPL. This newscast, this webcast, is going to be this coming Tuesday, March the 23rd, at 12:30 p.m. local time, that's Central Daylight Time. So 12:30 p.m. is coming right after lunch, this coming Tuesday, March the 23rd, at the normal NASA television channel, the NASA app, etc., etc. Any of the normal places you can view streaming NASA content, their YouTube site. Okay, that's all that I've got in 5BB.
Thank you, Bill. Do we have any more check-ins now? Okay, let's move into the discussion topic. The Mighty SLS. NASA Mega Moon rocket passes key test, ready for launch. The largest rocket element NASA has ever built, the core stage of NASA's Space Launch System, or SLS, rocket, fired its 4 RS-25 engines for 8 minutes and 19 seconds on Thursday at NASA's Stennis Space Center near Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. The successful test, known as a hot fire, is a critical milestone ahead of the agency's Artemis 1 mission, which will send an uncrewed Orion spacecraft on a test flight around the moon and back to Earth, paving the way for future Artemis missions with astronauts. Engineers designed the 8-part Green Run test campaign to gradually bring the SLS core stage to life for the first time, culminating with the hot fire. The team will use data from the test to validate the core stage design for flight. SLS is the most powerful rocket NASA has ever built, and during today's test, the core stage of the rocket generated more, well, it wasn't today, it was the other day, generated more than 1.6 million pounds of thrust within 7 seconds. The SLS is an incredible feat of engineering and the only rocket capable of powering America's next generation missions that will place the first woman and the next man on the moon, said acting NASA Administrator Steve Jurczyk. Today's successful hot fire test of the core stage for the SLS is an important milestone in NASA's goal to return humans to the lunar surface and beyond. Now, NASA previously conducted a hot fire test of the SLS core stage January 16th. The four RS-25 engines fired together for the first time for about 1 minute before the test ended earlier than planned. Following data analysis, NASA determined a second longer hot fire test would provide valuable data to help verify the core stage designed for flight, while posing minimal risk to the Artemis 1 core stage. During the second hot fire test, the stage fired the engines for a little more than 8 minutes, just like it will during every Artemis launch to the moon. If the longer duration hot fire test tested a variety of operational conditions, including moving the four engines in specific patterns to direct thrust and powering the engines up to the 109 power, throttling down and back up as they will during flight. The longer hot fire test provided the wealth of data we need to ensure the SLS core stage can power every SLS rocket successfully, said John Honeycutt, manager for the SLS program at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, Huntsville, Alabama. During this test, the team conducted new operations with the core stage for the first time, repeated some critical operations, and reported test data that will help us verify the core stage is ready for the first and future SLS flights for NASA's Artemis program. The two propellant tanks and the SLS core stage collectively hold more than 733,000 gallons of super cold liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen to help fuel the RS-25 engines at the bottom of the stage. The core stage has a complex network of flight software and avionics systems designed to help fly, track, and steer the rocket during launch and flight. Prior tests in the Green Run test series evaluated the integrated functionality and performance of the core stage's avionics systems, propulsion systems, and hydraulic systems. It's a great day for NASA, Stennis, and this nation's human space exploration program. This final test in the Green Run series represents a major milestone for this nation's return to the moon and eventual mission to Mars, said Stennis Director Richard Gilbrick. So many people across the agency and the nation contributed to this SLS core stage. The second special recognition is due to the blended team of test operators, engineers, and support personnel for an exemplary effort in conducting the test today. Teams at Stennis supervised a network of 114 tanker trucks, 6 propellant barges that provided liquid propellant through the B-2 test stand to the core stage. Test teams also delivered operational electrical power, supplied more than 330,000 gallons of water per minute to the stand's flame deflector, and monitored structural interfaces of both the hardware and the stand. Testing the SLS rocket's core stage is a combined effort for NASA and its industry partners. Boeing is the prime contractor for the core stage, and Aerojet Rocketdyne is the prime contractor for the RS-25 engines. Next, the core stage for the SLS will be refurbished and shipped to NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. There, the core stage will be assembled with the solid rocket boosters and other parts of the rocket and NASA's Orion spacecraft on the mobile launcher inside the vehicle assembly building at Kennedy in preparation for Artemis 1. SLS, Orion, and the ground systems at Kennedy, along with the human landing system and the gateway in orbit around the moon, are NASA's... Hold on. Apologize, I hit the down arrow. I think. I must have hit the up arrow. Give me a second. NASA's backbone for deep space exploration. SLS is the only rocket that can send Orion astronauts and supplies to the moon on a single mission. The exploration of the moon with NASA's Artemis program includes preparations to send astronauts to Mars as part of America's Moon to Mars exploration approach. Okay, do we have any more check-ins? Okay, what's next is what's up. Chaz, KF5JHA, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. This is KF5JHA. My name is Chaz. My degree is in astrophysics. I'm the astrophysics lab manager at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. And we call this segment of Skynet, What's Up? That's what I talk about. Slide number 2, please, slide master. This morning, we've already talked about this, but this morning, today, March 20th at 4:37 a.m. Central Daylight Time was the moment of the vernal equinox. Last week, I explored this on Skynet, so did you do it today? Did you get up in time to watch the sunrise this morning? And did you watch the sunset this evening? The sun rose directly east and set directly west today. That only happens on 2 days out of the year on the equinox, the vernal and the autumnal equinox. Slide number 3, please, sir. What did we do last Saturday night that we only do once a year? We changed from standard time to daylight savings time. Yep, it's written and pronounced daylight savings time. Not with an S, not daylight savings time, but daylight saving time. Why do we do this crazy thing? We are actually on daylight saving time longer than standard time. So daylight time is really our standard time. Couldn't we just stay on one or the other and not change? Have I confused you yet? I'm confused. Slide number 4. When did this all start? I really don't want to leak my source, but according to Wiki, hopefully that was funny, George Hudson proposed this modern-day daylight time idea back in 1895. The German Empire actually implemented it on April the 30th in 1916. Most of the world does not observe daylight time because a large portion of the world population lives near and around the equator in the tropics, where variation on the amount of daylight over the course of the year is very small. But when I lived in Seattle, it is located at 47 degrees north latitude. I remember in late December going to work when it was dark. It only got daylight around 9 a.m., and by 3 p.m. it was getting dark. So I went home in the dark. Some of you think I'm in the dark all the time anyway, so. But in contrast, at the end of June in Seattle, evening twilight did not end until around 11 p.m., and morning twilight began around 1 a.m. Not much time for nighttime astronomy during the summer in Seattle. Number 5. So why daylight time? The idea goes something like this. Individuals in industrialized locations who follow a year-round schedule of commuting to work daily will awake an hour earlier than they would otherwise. They will begin and complete daily work routines an hour earlier, and then they'll have available to them an extra hour of daylight after their workday activities. However, they will have one less hour of daylight at the start of each day, making the policy less practical during the winter. But war does add a mix to this. During World War I, daylight time was used to try to conserve coal. After World War I, daylight time was generally abandoned by most. Then came World War II, and daylight time came back, and then it went away again. Now, let's have an energy crisis in the 1970s. And again, daylight time gets put back in place, and now it has a foothold on all of us. When the shift to daylight time has slightly changed over the years, right now in North America, we make the change from standard time to daylight time on the second Sunday of March at 2 a.m. We skip the hour from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. on that day. To remember, we say the phrase, bring forward an hour, since we set our clocks forward 1 hour. In 2021, the change to daylight time happened this past Sunday. After Skynet, or after Glow movie last week, you probably set your non-computer controlled clocks ahead by 1 hour before you went to bed. Now, if it's computer controlled or it's getting signals from WWD, it automatically reset itself. Now, on the first Sunday in November at 2 a.m., we go back to standard time by setting our clocks back an hour to 1 a.m., from 2 a.m. to 1 a.m. Remember, by using the phrase, we fall back an hour, this year, it is on November the 7th. Locations in the United States that don't move their clocks back around Arizona, Hawaii, and Alaska. And maybe soon it could be Texas too. Currently, the state legislature bill and the 87 station is House Bill number 1405 and Senate Bill 471 that proposes that Texas stay on daylight time year-round, permanently. There are a couple of similar bills in the Texas legislature as well to stay on standard time year-round, or some other mix. If you like that idea, contact your state representative or state senator to vote yes on these bills to stay on one time. By the way, they had these proposals 2 years ago when they met last, and nothing came from it. Oh well. Five JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 8, please. The moon is new today. No, it's not. It was new back a week ago. Oh, I forgot to modify this. Okay. It's going to be at its first quarter on March the 21st. So what is today's phase of the moon? It's a waxing crescent. Although it looks like it's a first quarter phase, doesn't it? But tomorrow's when it really is. On on March the 28th, the moon will be full. On March the 30th, the moon will be at its perigee, which is the point on the moon's orbit, which is closest to the Earth. Number 9, please. Last night on March 19th, which was the birthday of a very famous astronomer, the moon and Mars was found just to the upper right of the Hyades star cluster in Taurus. The Hyades is the V-shaped group of stars that make up the face of Taurus, the bull. And the brightest star in that is called Aldebaran. And Aldebaran and Mars were not quite on opposite sides of the moon, but it looked like an interesting pairing last night. I hope you got to see it. Go out there tonight. The moon is further away from those two, but you still can see all three of them easily in the sky tonight. Slide number 10, please. The morning sky covering about 12 degrees, you can find the conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, and the moon. And slide number 11, exploring the evening sky on April the 16th, you will find Mars and the moon in conjunction in the western sky. And slide number 12, on April the 24th, looking low in the western evening sky, you can find Venus and Mercury in conjunction. Venus will be the brighter object and will be on the left, and Mercury will be on the right and dimmer. By the way, Venus is in the evening sky for about 9 months, and then it's in the morning sky for about 9 months. It's just now starting to come into the evening sky that we'll be able to see it for the rest of the year. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Once again, this coming Friday on March the 26th at 7:30, Michael Gorton at the Texas Astronomical Society Club meeting will be speaking about back to space. Again, to get information about that, go to texasastro.org. Slide number 14, please. I want to welcome the students from Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus that might be listening or watching the Skynet tonight. maybe either on YouTube or Facebook. I was having a hard time connecting to YouTube, but I don't know why. I can get it on one device, can't get it on the other. But students, due to the spring break, we're still in spring break, so we're not giving you class credit for listening or watching the Skynet tonight. It's listed on your website that you can't do that anyway. But the next Skynet session that you can use for class credit will be a week from now on March the 27th. Slide number 15, please. So is the moon waned during the first part of March. So these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Until next week, keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JJ Chaz, back to our net control. I believe that's Brenda. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Chaz. Do we have any more check-ins now? Okay, next up, space exploration and space history. And that would be me. First, space exploration news. This is about the Mars Exploration Rover mission. NASA's newest Mars rover nabbed a significant extraterrestrial sighting when an onboard camera happened to spot a red planet dust devil crossing Jezero crater. Engineers on the Perseverance rover missions saw the whirlwind in the distance of images captured by one of the rover's cameras as the dust made its way behind the rover's robotic arm. NASA published footage of the dust devil but has not yet released estimates of its size or speed. Spotted a dust devil, quote, you can see it in the distance behind my robotic arm. In this enhanced processed view, the dust devil is moving right to left, creating whirlwinds of dust in its path, unquote. That's a quote from Percy. I think she wrote that. I don't know. Mars is approaching aphelion when it is farthest in its orbit from the sun, but it's clear that solar energy is still strong enough to create dust devils. And scientists have seen aphelion dust devils before. During the 2012 aphelion, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter spotted a relatively colossal dust devil at 2,600 feet in height and 98 feet in diameter. That spacecraft's high-resolution imaging science experiment, that's called HiRISE, camera even spotted a swarm of dust devils in 2015. In fact, spacecraft as old as the Viking missions in the 1970s have seen dust devils, but because the phenomena are fleeting, missions sometimes have to wait years to spot one. NASA's Opportunity didn't see a dust devil until 2010, about 7 years into its mission. Its twin rover Spirit captured an incredible video of dust devils racing across the surface in a group in 2005, about 2 years into the mission. This is Juno reveals dark origins of one of Jupiter's grand light shows. The gas giant orbiter is illuminating the provenance of Jovian polar light shows. New results from the ultraviolet spectrograph instrument on NASA's Juno mission reveal for the first time the birth of auroral dawn storms, the early morning brightening unique to Jupiter's spectacular aurorae. These immense transient displays of light occur at both Jovian holes and had previously been observed only by ground-based and Earth-orbiting observatories, notably NASA's Hubble Space Telescope. Results of this study were published March 16th in the journal AGU Advances. First discovered by Hubble's Faint Object Camera in 1994, dawn storms consist of short-lived but intense brightening and broadening of Jupiter's main auroral oval, an oblong curtain of light that surrounds both poles, near where the atmosphere emerges from darkness in the early morning region. Before Juno, observations of Jovian ultraviolet aurora had offered only side views, hiding everything happening on the night side of the planet. Observing Jupiter's aurora from Earth does not allow you to see beyond the limb into the night side of Jupiter's poles. Explorations by other spacecraft, Voyager, Galileo, Cassini, happened from relatively large distances and did not fly over the poles, so they could not see the complete pictures that Bertrand Bonfond, a researcher from the University of Liège in Belgium and lead author of the study. That's why the Juno data is a real game changer, allowing us a better understanding of what is happening on the night side where the dawn storms are born. Researchers found dawn storms are born on the night side of the gas giant. As the planet rotates, the soon-to-be dawn storm rotates with it into the day side where these complex and intensely bright auroral features grow even more luminous, emitting anywhere from hundreds to thousands of gigawatts of ultraviolet light into space. The jump in brightness implies that dawn storms are dumping at least 10 times more energy into Jupiter's upper atmosphere than typical aurora. Space-related birthdays. Kalpana Chawla was born March 17th, 1962. Gene Cernan, March 14th, 1934. Frank Borman, March 14th, 1928. Alan Bean, March 15th, 1932. Ken Mattingly, March 17th, 1936. And James Irwin, March 17th, 1930. Walter Cunningham, March 16th, 1932. Michael Fink, March 14th, 1967. James Riley, March 18th, 1954. William B. Lenore, March 14th, 1939. And Michael Bloomfield, March 16th, 1959. Okay, this week in space history. What is an astronaut? We think we all know, right? An astronaut, according to the word's Greek origins, is a star sailor. Astronaut dates back to late 1958, when NASA was still in its infancy. The agency used the name astronaut in drafts of a job listing that called for applicants to its new astronaut program. NASA also considered cosmonaut, or universe sailor, before adopting the name astronaut. By 1961, Russia had commandeered cosmonaut for its space explorers, and China would later dub its spacemen taikonauts, or space sailors, both echoing and strengthening the nautical motif. European, Canadian, and Japanese organizations also later chose to adopt astronaut. Fewer than 350 Americans have earned the title. To win astronaut wings, you must travel over 50 miles into space. Some of the X-15 pilots qualified as such. The question for the future is whether space tourists and space travelers will be called astronauts. We'll see. March 17th, in 1958, the U.S. Navy launched Vanguard 1, the first solar-powered satellite and the oldest artificial satellite currently orbiting Earth. The main purpose of this mission was to test a new three-stage rocket. Vanguard 1 was the fourth satellite ever launched into space, following Sputniks 1 and 2 and Explorer 1. It looks like a lot like a miniature version of Sputnik. Vanguard 1 was tiny compared to the satellites, the size of a grapefruit, and weighs only 3 pounds. Solar technology allowed the satellite to transmit signals to Earth for 7 years, while battery-powered satellites couldn't even last a month. Scientists think the satellite will deorbit by the year 2198 after spending 250 years in space. Hey, do we have any more check-ins? Okay, next up, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. I'd like to call on Chaz, KF5JHA. Go ahead.
Hey everyone, once again, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. Slide number 16, please. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019 with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week. Miss Carolyn's constellation this week is Puppet, the poop deck, or the stern of this ship. In the southern hemisphere, it represents the stern of a ship, Argo, on which Jason and the Argonauts sailed to get the Golden Fleece. Purpose used to be a part of a much larger constellation, Argo Navis. Before the constellation was divided into several smaller ones, Carina, the keel, Vela, the sails, and Puppis, the stern. Puppis is the largest of the 3 constellations. I'm sure you have been waiting all night long for almost an hour for this moment. Slide number 17, please. The jokes for the week. It's related to the constellation of the week. Where was the captain sent after he hit another ship? Now think about it. Was the captain sent after he hit another ship? To anchor management. Oh, come on, that was funny, wasn't it? Okay, number 2. Why does Norway's Navy have barcodes on all the ships? Barcodes on all the ships? Oh, that's so when they come back into port, they can scan the Navy in. I'm sure you're laughing out there. I know. I can't hear it, but I'm sure you are. How do Viking ships communicate with each other? By Norse code. Oh, some of you out there with extras and taking the other element that has Morse code, you should have gotten that one. What did the pirate say when his child caught the ship on fire? Arson. All right, that was a stretch. Why is it that religious ships never make it far from port? Because they are holy. All right, maybe I should let that joke sink in. Oh no, that was a 2-for-1, wasn't it? And finally, the last joke in this series. I just watched a documentary on how ships are held together, and it was riveting. That for the chat window over here at Echolink. Yeah, I think I'll help do that. So you need to get on Echolink and look in the chat window for about 4 extra jokes that I'm going to put over there. All right. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 18, please. As Miss Key also known as Chi Pupus, is a misplacement and a mistransliteration of Pisces, the traditional name for a nearby star called Iota Carina, which is derived from the Greek word which means shield, which may be a reference to the shields that Jason and the Argonauts carried with them on their ship, the Argo. It's a G-type star, or yellow. It looks yellow in a telescope. Slide 18, Kappa Pupus is a nice double star. It's easy to split. Both stars appear yellowish white. The two stars are so identical in color and brightness, they look like a distant set of car headlights. I've got to look at this next time I get a chance. Slide number 19, please. M46 is a nice open cluster. It's easy to find, as nearby M47 is visible to the naked eye from a dark sky, and M46 is really close by. Both clusters are obvious in the finder scope. M46 fills the field of view in a 25mm eyepiece at around 84 power. Depends on your telescope what magnification you get with a 25mm eyepiece. There are many stars of varying brightness, but none that particularly stand out, giving the initial impression of somewhat uniform brightness. But there is a bonus object inside of it. If you look carefully, you can find a planetary nebula, NGC 2438, inside this star cluster. If you've got a large enough telescope, it's easy to find. Number 20, please. M47 is seen from dark sky side as a bright patch of the Milky Way. Visually, it is a very different cluster than M46. Overall, it's more sparsely populated M46, but its stars are mostly brighter, and they are all more varied in brightness than those of M46. Slide number 21, please. M93 is an easily spotted in a 50mm finder scope as a fuzzy glow near that star we were talking about as mid-sky. It is a fairly sparsely cluster of stars with mostly uniform brightness. There are two stars that are somewhat brighter. One is blue-white, and the other one is a noticeably orange-red color. This is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 22, please. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Pupus, the stern of the ship. I've given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 70 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. So if you observe about 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide number 23, please. And that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Pupus, the stern of the ship. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and stolen. Yes, I've stolen some of their words tonight. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information as well. Next week, we'll take a look at two different constellations, Lynx, the Wildcat, and Cancer, the Crab. All right, and that's it. KF5 JHA. This is Chaz, back toward net control. Thank you, Brenda.
Chaz, this is WV5OZL. Do we have any more check-ins? Next segment is space launches for this week, brought to us by Tom, KE5ICX. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Okay, everybody close your eyes. Imagine a Falcon 9 rocket. Imagine a constellation of satellites going into orbit, and you have this week's launches. The Falcon 9 Starlink version V1.0 launched 22 from Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral, Florida. will launch the 23rd batch of approximately 60 satellites for SpaceX Starlink broadband network. The mission is designated V1.0L22. Yep. March 24th, 25th, overnight, there will be a launch out of Vostochny Cosmodrome in Russia. The Russian Soyuz rocket will launch 36 satellites into orbit from OneWeb, which is developing a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low-latency broadband communications. It will launch on a Soyuz 2.1B rocket and will use, everybody knows it, the Fregat upper stage. Don't forget it. March 28th, we have a launch from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, India. India's geosynchronous satellite will launch vehicle MK2 GSLV, designated GSLV F10, and will launch India's first geo-imaging satellite, or GSAT-1. GSAT-1 spacecraft will provide continuous remote sensing observations over the Indian subcontinent from geostationary orbit from 22,000 miles. On April 9th, and I guess we're going into April, but these are the active flights. We have from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, a Russian government Soyuz rocket will launch a crewed Soyuz MS-18 spacecraft to the International Space Station with members of the next expedition crew. The capsule will remain at the station for about 6 months, providing an escape pod for the residents. The rocket will fly in a Soyuz 2.1A configuration. In April, we have the SSLV launch. Hopefully, we'll see. This is from, Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, India. This is the small satellite launch vehicle. Don't get it mixed up with that other thing. Will launch on its first orbital test flight, consisting of 3 solid-fueled stages and 1 liquid-fueled upper stage. The SSLV is a new Indian launch vehicle designated to carry small satellites into low Earth orbit. And then finally, well, I guess I got a couple more. April 19th to 20th, overnight. This is from the Launch Complex in Kourou, French Guiana. An Arianespace Vega rocket, designated Victor 18, will launch the Pleiades NEO-1 Earth observation satellite for Airbus. Pleiades NEO-1 is the first of 4 of the Pleiades NEO high-resolution Earth observation satellites built, owned, and operated by Airbus. The Vega rocket will also launch multiple rideshare payloads, and that's it. One more. On April 22nd, Falcon 9, we have a manned launch. This will be the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch the Crew Dragon spacecraft on its 2nd operational flight with astronauts on board to the International Space Station. NASA astronauts Shane Kimbrough and Megan McArthur, Japanese astronaut Akihiko Hoshi, and European Space Agency astronaut Thomas Pesquet will launch on the Crew Dragon spacecraft. The Crew Dragon will return to the splashdown at sea. And that's it from me, Brenda. That's the space launches really over the next month, really, rather than week. Back to you, KE5I6.
Okay, thank you, Tom. This is WV5OZL. Any more check-ins now? Next up, astronomical discoveries. What happened to Mars's water? Is still trapped there. New data challenges the long-held theory that all of Mars's water escaped into space. Billions of years ago, the red planet was far more blue. According to the evidence still found on the surface, abundant water flowed across Mars and forming pools, lakes, and deep oceans. The question is, where did all that water go? The answer, nowhere. According to new research from Caltech and JPL, a significant portion of Mars's water, between 30 and 99%, He's trapped within minerals in the Earth's crust. The research challenges the current theory that the red planet's water escaped into space. The Caltech JPL team found that around 4 billion years ago, Mars was home to enough water to have covered the whole planet in an ocean about 100 to 1,500 meters deep, a volume roughly equivalent to half of Earth's Atlantic Ocean. But 5 billion years later, the planet was as dry as it is today. Previously, scientists seeking to explain what happened to the flowing water on Mars have suggested that it escaped into space, victim of Mars's low gravity. Though some water did indeed leave Mars this way, it now appears that such an escape cannot account for most of the water loss. Atmospheric escape doesn't fully explain the data that we have for how much water actually once existed on Mars. This is Caltech PhD candidate Eva Scheller, lead author of a paper on the research that was published by the Journal of Science on March 16th and presented the same day at the Lunar and Planetary Science Conference. Scheller's co-authors are Bethany Ehlmann, Professor of Planetary Science and Associate Director for the Keck Institute of Space Studies, Yuk Young, Professor of Planetary Science and JPL Senior Research Scientist, Caltech graduate student Danica Adams, and Renyu Hu, JPL Research Scientist. Caltech manages JPL for NASA. The team studied the quality of water on Mars over time in all its forms, vapor, liquid, and ice, and the chemical composition of the planet's current atmosphere and crust through the analysis of meteorites, as well as using data provided by Mars rovers and orbiters, looking in particular at the ratio of deuterium to hydrogen. Water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen, H2O. Not all hydrogen atoms are created equal, however. Two stable isotopes of hydrogen. The vast majority of hydrogen atoms have just one proton within the atomic nucleus, while a tiny fraction, about 0.02%, exists as deuterium, or so-called heavy hydrogen, which has a proton and a neutron in the nucleus. The lighter-weight hydrogen, also known as protium, has an easier time escaping the planet's gravity into space than its heavier counterpart. Because of this, the escape of a planet's water via the upper atmosphere would leave a telltale signature on the ratio of deuterium to hydrogen in the planet's atmosphere. There would be an outsized portion of deuterium left behind. However, the loss of water solely through the atmosphere cannot explain both the observed deuterium to hydrogen signal in the Martian atmosphere and large amounts of water in the past. Instead, the study proposes that a combination of two mechanisms, the trapping of water and minerals in the planet's crust and the loss of water to the atmosphere, can explain the observed deuterium to hydrogen signal within the Martian atmosphere. When water interacts with rock, chemical weathering forms clays and other high-grade minerals that contain water as part of their mineral structure. This process occurs on Earth as well as on Mars. Because Earth is tectonically active, old crust continually melts into the mantle and forms new crust at plate boundaries, recycling water and other molecules back into the atmosphere through volcanism. Mars, however, is mostly tectonically inactive, so the drying of the surface once it occurs is permanent. Atmospheric escape clearly had a role in water loss. The findings from the last decade of Mars missions have pointed to the fact that there was a huge reservoir of ancient hydrated minerals whose clearly decreased water availability over time, says Ehlmann. All this water was sequestered fairly early on and then never cycled back out, Scheller says. The research, which relied on data from meteorites, telescopes, satellite observations, and samples analyzed by rovers on Mars, illustrates the importance of having multiple ways of probing the red planet, she says. Ehlmann, Hu, and Young previously collaborated on research that seeks to understand the habitability and history of carbon, since carbon dioxide is the principal constituent of the atmosphere. Next, the team plans to continue to use isotopic and mineral composition data to determine the fate of nitrogen and sulfur-bearing minerals. In addition, Scheller plans to continue examining the processes by which Mars surface water was lost to the crust using laboratory experiments to simulate Martian weathering processes, as well as through observations of ancient crests by the Perseverance rover. Scheller and Eldon also aided Mars 2020 operations to collect rock samples to return to Earth that will allow the researchers and their colleagues to test these hypotheses about the drivers of climate change on Mars. All right, next up, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. KE5 ICX, you want to give us a little information there?
Absolutely, Ms. Brenda. This is KE5 ICX. Let's see, we have no ISS passes to speak of interest. However, we have the X-37B. That's the secret Space Force winged shuttle that has been in orbit now for, about a year and a half, I guess. We have a couple of passes that are pretty good. March 24th, 0.9 magnitude. At 2038 local time, it'll come out of the northwest, reach its highest point at 54 degrees at 2041, and then fall to the east at 2043, so, at 27 degrees. So that's a pretty good path. Then on March 26th, we have 0.8 magnitude, 2018, that's in the evening, obviously, 8:18 local time, reaches its highest point at 69 degrees at 2021, and then falls at 10 degrees at 2024. Both good passes. Then the only other thing I got is Envisat. Let's see if I can pull that one up. Envisat, that's that big, huge environmental satellite that has been out of operation for quite a while. There's only one that is reasonably visible. That's on March 27th. That'll be a 3.4 magnitude at 6:52 a.m. It'll come out of the north-northeast at 6:52, reach its highest point at 6:57 at 71 degrees, and then falls at 7:02. Did I get that right? Yeah, I think so. 7:02 out of the south polar satellite. That's it. There weren't any other really decent passes right now. Back to you. This is KE5I6.
KF5, JHA, recheck.
KF5, JHA, go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. I just want to let everyone know the ISS had a good pass over the last night, around 10:23 to 10:26, if I remember right. And I just walked outside the apartment, and there it was. I wasn't even looking for it, and it was there, and I looked it up, and I said, well, I just saw the ISS. So as we get further into the spring and to the early summer, that's the best time to look at satellites. And you can do that from your yard. I mean, I live a block and a half away from a mall, and right beside two different freeways, and yet I was able to see it easily just with my two eyes. So I wanted to emphasize what Tom was talking about on the satellites. You can see them, so go out and look at them. Thank you, Brenda. KF5JHA.
Thank you, Taz. All right, we're running a little ahead of time, so I think we have time for astronomical Q&A. Anybody have any questions?
KE5I6.
KE5ICX, go ahead.
Well, this was for Chaz originally. Earlier, he asked for questions, but he never allowed us to ask any questions. So I'm asking a question. I don't know if he knows the answer to this, because this is kind of astronomical, but not really. So he may have to look this one up, or I have to look this one up. Daylight saving time. Is this a uniquely American thing? does this happen in Europe regularly, or even in south of the equator? Say, for example, does Australia do that? That's my question. I know that it may have been originated in different places, but who follows this besides us? And maybe Canada, excluding Newfoundland. KE5ICX.
Actually, it's a great question. If you can get my slide deck back up and take a look at slide number 6 and put that up on the screen for those of you that are looking at the videos either on YouTube or Facebook, slide number 6 shows you that there primarily it's North America and Europe that does the daylight saving time, but there are actually a couple of countries in South America and parts of Australia. Not all of Australia. Isn't it interesting? Only parts of it. And then there's a few islands here and there. And well, anyway, so it depends on where you're at. But that's a great question. Shaded in the green on the map that I've got sitting on slide number 6 shows you that different parts of the world do celebrate daylight savings time, including the southern part of the Earth in the southern hemisphere. But that, I think it's interesting that only parts of Australia. Okay. Did that answer your question, Tom? KF5JHA.
Kind of explains the who, but not the why. But then we're asking the why a lot too, and not the who, the where, not the who. I like the who. Doctor Who. Never mind. No, I got it. Thank you. And I'm going to examine this map. Somehow or another, I missed it while I was doing the slide presentation. Slide number 6. I will always remember it. KE5ICX.
Interesting. Well, I remember the battle over it when I was young. My dad owned a restaurant, and the Restaurant Association opposed bringing in daylight savings time because physicists like restaurants would have to stay open later, and it was no help to them at all, but they lost. Okay, I guess we're about done. Tonight we had 24 hams. First, do we have any late check-ins? So we had 24 hams participating on the air. Thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week, every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful Internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WB5OZL, Brenda. I'll be closing the net at 10:24 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. But next, we're going to have our movie net. Tom, you want to set a timer on that?
We'll go ahead and start in 6 minutes. That'll be 10:30 on the dot.
See you, WB5OZL, clear.
Update. Completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly. Afterglow Movie Net.
Hello everyone, my name's Tom. I'm Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. And I like bad movies. I even like good movies. Sometimes I even like the movie Chosen. Tonight, I'll be your net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. You heard me earlier, but that's okay. You can hear me again. Tonight's movie is District 9. That's what's called a pragmatic pause. District 9. So let me tell you about it, and then I'll tell you what this net is and how you can participate. This is from my research company, Wikipedia. You didn't know I owned one. Well, I don't, but I say I do. It's called Wikipedia. District 9 is 2009 science fiction action film directed by Neil Blomkamp in his feature film debut. It was written by Blomkamp and Terry Tatchell and produced by Peter Jackson and some other people we don't care about. The film is partially presented in found footage format by featuring fictional interviews, news footage, and video from surveillance cameras. Which explores themes of humanity, xenophobia, social segregation, begins in an alternate 1982 when an alien spaceship appears over Johannesburg, South Africa. When a population of sick and malnourished insectoid aliens are discovered on the ship, the South African government confines them to an internment camp called District 9. 20 years later, during the government's relocation of the aliens to another camp, one of the confined aliens named Christopher Johnson, who is about to try to escape from Earth with his son and return home, crosses paths with a bureaucrat leading the relocation. Tried to escape Earth with his son and return home. Crosses paths with a bureaucrat leading the relocation named Wikus van der Murray. You say it. The title and premise of District 9 was inspired by events in Cape Town's District 6 during the apartheid era. Debuted in July of 2009. So anyway, spaceship arrives and hovers over South African city, Johannesburg. Investigation team finds over 1 million malnourished aliens, derogatorily called the prawns, inside, and the South African government relocates them to a camp called District 9. However, over the years, it turns into a slum. The locals often complain the aliens are filthy, ignorant lawbreakers who bleed resources from humans. Following unrest between the aliens and locals, the government hires multinational United, MNU, and a huge weapons manufacturer to relocate the aliens to a new camp outside the city. They appoint Wilkes Van der Meer to lead the relocation. Meanwhile, 3 aliens, Christopher Johnson, his son CJ, and his friend Paul, search District 9 garbage dump for alien fuel for prawn technology, which Christopher has had them spend the last 20 years synthesizing enough to enact his plan. They finally finish Paul's shack as the relocation begins, but when Vitus comes to the shack to serve Paul a notice, he finds a hidden container with the fuel and accidentally sprays some of it in his face while confiscating it. Paul is killed by Kubis Venter, a cruel MNU mercenary. Injured after the fuel exposure and playing down his symptoms, he passes out and is taken to the hospital where his left hand is now a prawn claw. He's transferred to the MNU lab where researchers begin brutal experiments and discover his chimeric DNA grants him the ability to operate prawn weaponry. This is biologically restricted for humans. Wanting to capture this human-alien hybridity before Wikus truly transforms, Smith orders for Wikus' body to be vivisected and harvested for profitable properties. Wikus, however, overpowers the lab personnel and escapes while Venter's forces hunt for him. Smear story is broadcast, and one that reaches his wife and Smith's daughter, Tanya, claiming Wikus is a wanted fugitive. Sorry about that, the doggies wanted out. Let's see here. It goes on. Wikus and Chris force their, let's see here. Takes refuge. Oh, well, I'm going to stop here because then it goes into the fact that they got to get the fuel back, and then there's a big firefight that goes along with it. And finally, something happens, which I'm not going to tell you what it is if you haven't seen the movie, but we'll end up talking about it anyway. So let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins, which means I'm going to take your call sign, phonetically your name. Let me know where you're transmitting from if you want. Otherwise, I just need to know, did you see District 9? It doesn't have to be recently. If you've seen the film, that's fine. If you saw it this week, that's even better because it's fresh in your mind. That is not a game changer. If you've seen the film, that's fine. If you haven't, that's okay too. We'll talk about alien invasions of Earth of all different kinds, the third and beyond, at least. All right, my name is Tom, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. I'll be your net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net, District 9. So I'll take check-ins. Please come out.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving. Yes, I saw this movie.
Kilo Golf, Zulu Whiskey, hey, near Whitford. And yes, I've seen the film and look at the
Tango Mike. Tony and Dallas. Yes, I saw the movie.
1, Golf Bravo Delta, Guy in Lake Highlands, and I have seen the movie.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda DeSoto, yes, I've seen it.
Bravo 5, Alpha November Echo, Kane and Richardson. Yes, I saw the movie, and I got a +1 with me tonight.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, James, Oklahoma. I saw part of the movie.
Bad, not bad at all. Let's see here. I've got N5BV, Bill and Irving. Yep, he saw it. KG5B said WJ. Weatherford, yep, he saw the movie. Jay, you're spotty into the repeater. Everybody's been a little bit that way. You may want to go to Echolink or turn your power to, I don't know, 200 watts will probably do it. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, he saw it. K1GBD, Lake Highland. I murdered your location before, Guy. Let me look. Maybe I'll go back. GDB. Oh, there's like a million people in here. Oh well. Guy, give me your call again, please.
I was on the wrong frequency. Kilo 1, Golf Bravo Delta.
Thank you. I murdered your location before. You said you saw the movie, right?
Yes, sir, I certainly have. That's affirmative.
Thank you, Guy. You're the person tonight that I mess up everything on. So just chin high, nothing personal. I'm just inept. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda, over in DeSoto. She saw it. K5A&E, Kane, I think in Dallas somewhere, maybe, I don't know, somewhere, but you saw the movie, that's good. And then Ron, N5SQA in Dallas, he saw the movie. This is very exciting. Now I know you have a television set. This is great. Anyone else would like to check in over here, and I'm going to Echolink. Please come now.
Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen the movie.
Good. I've got KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. He saw the movie. I am now moving over to Echolink. I'll give you all extra time. Echolink only. Please come now with your call sign name. Where you're transmitting from? Did you see District 9? Echolink only. Please go ahead.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. Yes, I saw the film.
I saw part of the movie.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. Yes, I saw the film.
Very good. I've got KF5PDS, Miss Billy and Sherman. She saw the movie, and I got James, KG5PMN. He saw parts of the film. So I've got you all checked in. Looks like everybody has seen the movie. I'll ask one more time. Anyone else might want to join us? You don't necessarily have to have seen District 9. We'll ask you other questions about alien invasions. Anyone else like to join us this evening? Please come now with your call sign name. Where you're transmitting from. Did you see District 9? Everybody listen up. I'm going to scramble this one a bit. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I shouldn't do that. I should put you at the top. 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that everybody? That's everybody. All right, listen up. This is what we're going to do. First up, I just randomized you guys, and I really did randomize you. I didn't try and do anything funny. First up is K5A&E, Kane in Dallas. He says he saw the film, and then after that will be N5BB. K5A&E. Our first section here is what you think about the plot to this film. You are first on the runway from KE5ICX.
Alrighty, as mentioned, I've got a +1 here. He's an unlicensed amateur radio wannabe, and he'll be also sharing his opinion after me. This is K5A&E, and yeah, this is a really interesting movie. I really like this movie. I loved it when it first came out, and it's got a lot of awesome themes to it, a lot of important themes of, really trying to, understand the others. And really trying to connect with other people and really understanding things from the other side, It really shows that, the world that we live in is really has a lot of depth and complexity to it, and we really need to put ourselves in other people's shoes to really understand what's going on, because what we think is going on and, the things we do that we think we might be trying to help these people, maybe we're not always helping, and maybe there's other ways that we can help. And sometimes our preconceived notions of what is good and what is bad aren't exactly right. So, yeah, let me hand this off to my friend here, and he'll share his ideas real quick.
I think it's I really like this movie because it doesn't just show one person's view. It shows multiple different views of, different people's perspectives and, between different things, what happened. And that's it.
This is K5A&E, back to net.
Very good. Thank you both. And Kane, who is your friend there that is going to be a ham want to be and will be, I'm sure. I'll put his name down.
Sullivan.
Back to net.
What's your first name again?
Brady Sullivan.
Oh, Brady. Okay, I got you in there, and we'll come back to you on the next round here. All right, next is N5BB, Bill in Irving, and then after that is Jay, KG5BZW. So, Bill, go ahead. Your thoughts on plot.
This is N5BB. Plot. Well, first, I like the movie. I have not seen it before. I think I'd vaguely heard about it, but I didn't know really anything about what the movie was about. Or I'd forgotten it, probably, when I watched it this time. So it was new to me. I had some difficulty with some of the science in it. The biggest problem, which, I mean, this was a Peter Jackson film, and it was designed to be produced. It was designed to be, you know, a blockbuster, big movie, and it made money. So they did the normal, you know, things they do in these movies to make them make money, which is they make the aliens be roughly, you know, within, you know, 75 to 50% the size of a human. And they give them 2 legs and 2 arms and a torso and a head. And they eat some kind of food. And they have no trouble in Earth's atmosphere and temperature. And they can breathe oxygen. So, of course, the chance of that occurring on an alien is very, very small. So that is, it's part of a, you know, a genre of movies that take that conceit, you know, that the aliens are really modified humans. That's what they really are. The biggest things on them that makes them know that you're not looking at somebody, a human in an alien suit, is they got little tiny waists. So that's the conceit there. They have really tiny little waists. So that's how you know it's CGI or something. The second thing that bothered me was they copied what's been some other movies, which is this big hulking spaceship that's just sitting there not moving with no obvious means of anti-gravity to keep it up there. And this has been used in several movies over the last, 30 years. I wish they stopped doing that. I'm tired of that. They've done it enough times. Stop. The weapons also did not look realistic to me. They had some kind of zigzaggy electric, or one of the weapons had some kind of zigzaggy electric thing. And you noticed when they hit a human with the weapon, the human essentially disintegrated. You got little splatters of body parts, but it just completely disintegrated. Something about that did not seem very realistic to me either. It was too much of a common theme in some other kind of movies. It's a disintegrator kind of thing. And then another thing, a little bit about the plot, was they had the character and the small, I guess, son of the character, and it was like a daddy, kid thing. And that didn't seem very realistic. I mean, the way it was presented just didn't seem to me to be what would really be like for aliens. But you've heard this all before. This is just another science fiction movie that makes the aliens out to be modified humans. Again, I want to be clear, I like the movie, but I fault the science. I also did not understand at all why the fuel triggered some, quote, DNA change, unquote. How in the world would the DNA, number one, the chance of an alien having DNA the way we know it is close to zero. And then the chance of that DNA being able to somehow merge with our DNA, giving you a claw on an arm, which you could control and feel, is really close to zero. And then, my big question, why did the fuel, the liquid in the little tube, trigger this? No explanation. None at all. I mean, why would the fuel do this? I mean, if you spilled some kerosene on somebody, would you expect their DNA to change because of the kerosene? No. Anyway, that made absolutely no sense. One other thing about the plot, when you got out of the hospital, their security was horrible. That was supposed to be a secure facility, and he got out. That didn't make any sense at all to me. But we've seen that in many, many other movies. Like many other people, I was a bit bothered by the Nigerians all being scumbags in this movie. And I thought it was really weird that the aliens liked cat food. N5BB.
That was abrupt, Phil. I was expecting more on the cat food. No, I took some notes here, and I'll mention some of the things. I agree with you on several things on that, and a couple other things don't disagree, but I got a slightly different view. Let's see. Jay, KG5BZW, you are next as number 3, and then after that comes Guy, K1GBD. You'll be after Jay. So, Jay, go ahead. Your comments on District 9. That's the movie, and we're talking about the plot right now from KE5ICX.
This is KG5BZW. Yeah. Bill, I think Bill needs to shush about the floating spaceships. Those are awesome. Those are, it's like when you watch sci-fi for fantastic stuff that could possibly maybe, or maybe not, be, real. And I know it's such a trope in sci-fi, but I liked it. It was, I mean, it was clearly, I felt that the ship was more of a homage to Close Encounters of the Third Kind than actual, something to, be denigrated. But, anyway, what to add here? I liked the film. I really did like the film. Yeah, there was a few things. Bill mentioned a few. That I would say that fuel, so-called fuel, I just, sometimes you gotta pretend that these guys don't know what they're talking about, like, or pretend that sometimes they're lying, or like, okay, the fuel, I kind of considered it to be, okay, maybe it's not really fuel, or maybe there's like nanobots or something in the mixed in the fuel that, do whatever. Yeah, having that change to have the arm slowly change it to another species arm, that doesn't really make sense. But hey, there's a certain, things you have to accept with sci-fi, and kind of silly, a little bit silly things like that. I guess it's okay, but I don't know. It's an interesting thought to explore anyway, just because of real human conditions that where phantom limbs and not really phantom limbs was the term, because phantom limbs is for those that have been amputated, but those anyway. There's real human conditions where people don't think that their arm or whatever is their own arm or whatever, and kind of gateway into that. Not that this is, anyway, it's kind of side of the point. As far as the lie is concerned, I thought the immediate trust of the alien, say, oh, I promise to come back in 3 years, that seemed a little bit unrealistic. unless there was also a sense of guilt too, and maybe also the alien happens to kind of like the main character, it would seem, kind of have a bad habit of overpromising or just something to, not so much to satisfy, but, or sometimes overpromise just out of guilt or whatever. I may be reading a little bit more into that than really is there, but I thought it was an interesting way to read it. Okay, let me reset. All right, this is KG5BZW, and I'm still on. Okay. Excuse me. Oh, what else? I really liked the going back and forth in between the documentary and then, this is what actually happened, which, can't really explain in the documentary. I thought it was a unique way to show the whole situation, without the use of a narrator or whatever, which, narrator in film is, good indication it's not going to be, okay, it can be done, but, this is a good way, let's just say, the way they did it here was a good way to avoid it. Gosh, there's a lot I like, and there's a few things I don't like the Nigerian thing. That was a little bit, Nigerian overlord, that was, that's its own thing. I don't even know if I want to get into that because, well, that's a lot. But otherwise, I know there's others eagerly waiting to give their comments, so I'm going to hand to the next person, KG5BZW.
Of ICX Net Control for tonight's Afterglow movie, we are talking about District 9. District 9, I've got a random order here. Next up on the list is K1GBD, Golf Bravo Delta, that's Guy. And then after that comes Billy, KSI-PDS. So we'll start with Guy, K1GBD. Go ahead, your thoughts on the plot.
You have nailed that call sign, so thank you for that. No, that didn't take very much long time at all. I relate to and am simultaneously disheartened by Bill's comments. I tend to be really hard on movies like that. I'm famously saying, "Oh, what would never happen like that?" But I feel like there are some movies where it's so clearly just the vehicle. The whole, it was just the fact that it was aliens in a spaceship was just kind of the vehicle for telling the real story. And I remember at the time seeing it and being actually kind of real, knowing that's the case, and just being really happy to suspend my disbelief, honestly. Reset for the repeater. And I also think that, there are some movies that there's something that's kind of central to the plot, but they don't ever really get explained. In the movie business, I think sometimes they call it a MacGuffin, which is, so if you think of if you've seen Inception, they clearly have some sort of machine they hook themselves up to go into people's dreams. But they never, ever talk about it. They never once, it's in a briefcase and it's got some buttons and they all get an IV, but they never once talk about what that machine is or how that even came to be. And yet I found it a really, really compelling movie, and I never really cared. I thought it was kind of endearing. It's also kind of like, if you've seen it, like What's in the Briefcase in Pulp Fiction. We never find out, but it's kind of the central character. So that's kind of how I looked at it in terms of the science or the lack thereof. But what I will also say is that I remember, because it was it was a long time ago. And I was in the thick of digital marketing and web page making and all kinds of stuff when it was starting to be really cool. One of the things that was really groundbreaking about this movie is that they made all kinds of web properties for MNU. Like there was a Join MNU, I think that's what it is, right? MNU, the company, right? They had a whole website where you could go. It was basically like a recruiting website. If you wanted to go join MNU, you could go there and you could take a test and about what kind of trainee you'd be, and then they had like fake news stories, and they had several different Facebook pages, and it was kind of new at the time, doing something that multimedia using just kind of online as part of an extension of the storytelling. That was a really big thing for a very, very short time. I was very fortunate to kind of be in the internet business at the time, and it was really that was very it was very noticeable and kind of groundbreaking about how they marketed that movie. So honestly, that's what I remember more than anything else. So yeah, but I mean, great movie. I remember being just blown away by it, and my wife never wanting to see it again, and asking why I asked her to see it in the first place. So takes all kinds. That's what I got. So thanks much. This is K1GBD. Back to you, Net Control.
Thank you, guys. Most appreciate your comments. Next up is Miss Billy, KF5PBS. You're next, and then after that comes NT5TM. So this should be interesting. So, Miss Billy, KF5PBS, your thoughts on the plot for Precinct 9. I think you actually recommended this movie a while back, and it finally showed up on the air. Streaming with the ads so we can actually watch it. So KF5PDS from KE5ICX. Go ahead.
Great, thanks, Tom. Yeah, it finally made it to the surface. It's fun to throw movies out, and then you just never know when they're going to get to yours. And so we got to mine. Yay! So glad that people are liking it too. I've always found this movie interesting. I've watched it several times. I watched it 3 times just this week because it's one of those where if you watch on the surface, you get what you get, but then as you watch more and more, you can drill down into details. And so this is one of those movies that I really like to watch over again because then you can start to drill down into the details and notice things that you hadn't noticed before. Yeah, it was definitely action-packed. The story kept moving. I thought it got a little too shoot 'em up, a little too gory in some places, but but it was definitely action-packed. I always think science fiction is interesting because we can always make, through science fiction, make, political, social commentary and things like that. This one definitely, because the writer and director was South African himself, he could really touch on the, like apartheid issues, which I'll, talk more about in the characterizations because there's more to say about that in the characters. But, so it's a politically charged movie and politically influenced by, things that have happened during the writer's and director's lifetime. Neil Blomkamp, he lived in South Africa during that time period, and so he has infused his culture into the movie, which I find it very fascinating. And then it gets, largely South African actors like Charlton Copley, who played Vickers van der Merwe. He's South African, and so you get the flavor of South Africa. And of course, it's filmed in Johannesburg, and which is an interesting place for the aliens to end up. I was kind of like Bill, wondering about the anti-gravity, like what was keeping the ship up for nearly 30 years, because they started in 1982 was when they arrived, and then 2010 is where we come in, and that's like 28 years later, and it's been hovering this whole time without faltering, without, even lowering one iota. It has managed to stay its course for in the sky for nearly 3 decades. Now, I'm with Jay. It's extremely cool. But I did kind of question science like Bill did. I found this movie kind of like Alien Nation, if you remember the movie, and that came into a successful TV show as well. I found the cat food humorous because it reminded me of Alien Nation when the aliens drank sour milk and it was acting on them like alcohol, or the cat food acted on the aliens like catnip. So I thought that was really funny. That was a humorous, very weird, quirky thing, and I thought that added some interesting, quirk to the film. I thought all the characters were well developed, and enjoyed the action, although I didn't appreciate some of the gore. And I found the ending very tinged with lots of melancholy to me. It ended on a sad note. I found the whole situation very sad at the end. So, but it moved well, and so during some of the shoot 'em up sequences, I wish they would have kind of moved on and gotten back to the story instead of dwelling on a bunch of shoot 'em up action. But on the whole, I like the film. It's one that I will watch again and again. So with that, I'll return it to you. This is KF5PDS, back to net.
Thank you, Billy, and good comments. Next up is NT5TM, Tony. After Tony comes WB50ZL. So, Tony, NT5TM, your thoughts on plot for District 9 from KE5ICS.
Well, we've had a lot of great comments tonight because this is a really thoughtful film. So I want to kind of split my opinion and say the movie is in some ways very predictable, but also very good. It's predictable in the sense that our protagonist, the mid-level white South African corporate bureaucrat, consistently fails to rise to the occasion. Most of us know our lines. Here's your chance to do the right thing or volunteer for that or step up to the other thing. Whatever it is, we know that at some point a camera will be thrust into our face and what we're supposed to do when that happens. He doesn't. He gets very upset. What do you mean it might take almost 3 years to get this arm off? I can't wait that long. My arm is really weird. Darn it! Him a lot of tries to kind of realize the situation he's in and rise to the occasion. But that's okay, because South Africa is a very messy and confusing place. And that's one of the most redeeming things about the plot, is that it really reminds us that, sometimes we get Nazis in uniforms, and that makes life very easy because they have the little death heads things in their caps, and okay, so we know that's the enemy. But there are places in the real world in the 20th century where really horrible things happened, and it can be harder to rise up and fight against them if you're caught in their midst. I've been lucky because I haven't been. Yay! But that's even happened to people I've met. So I really kind of have to laugh at the plot a little bit for, yes, you made the aliens look just ugly enough that it was a little hard to relate to them, but we all managed to in the end. And you made this protagonist really, really weak and messed up, and it took him a lot of tries to rise to the occasion and realize what his duty was. But then I have to give the movie a pat on the back, because although these things were kind of cliched and kind of tugging at my heartstrings on purpose, it was very realistic. I mean, life is complicated and messy and awkward and unpleasant. And the movie did a great deal of, on the one hand, being very cliched and cinematic and Hollywood-esque, but also, you know, on the other hand, very real about how it can take us a lot of tries to get things right. So, yeah, I kind of laugh at it, but I kind of love it. NT5 to you.
Thank you, Tony. I think we're paring this one down a little bit. It makes sense. Thanks for your comments on that. I appreciate it. Let's see. Next is Brenda, WB5OZL, and then after her is Ron, N5SQA. So we'll start with Brenda, WB5OZL. What did you think about the plot for District 9?
This is WB5OZL. Well, I really like this movie. I like the plot. But yeah, just imagine a government building where they're doing really bad experiments on people and creatures, and it's secretive, and you know, they're willing to dismember Wickus just to see what makes him tick. These people have souls. Gee, where in the world does that ever happen? I did have a bit of problems that I couldn't quite explain where the ship came from, what it was doing there, you know, where it was going, and all of that. I just thought they should have had a better plan somehow. And then the humans throwing all these poor devils into this one little area, 1 million of them, which this was actually filmed on a garbage dump. That's what it really was, the set. This put them in the most inhumane conditions. And there's just a lot of discomfort at the inhumanity that is shown to a number of people and creatures. The District 9 is to take off on District 6, a real place in Johannesburg, an area. And the first part of the 20th century, it was kind of a working class area of many ethnic groups. And they all got along, and everything was fine. And then in the 50s, the government started implementing some apartheid measures, and they started relocating people out of there. They wanted to make District 6 all white, so they started forcing people to move out, and so that's the parallel to that. So this movie made me very uncomfortable, and it was supposed to, so it did its job. You're just sort of cringing when you go, oh, what else bad can happen, or the sense of doom, you know it's not going to be okay, and in the end, it's not okay. You know, best case, Wickus stumbles around in the dump, or he gets relocated to another dump. With the relocation area, I have no confidence was any better than this one. They should have given these people something to do, some land or some avocation or some entertainment. Just throw them in the slums was just unbelievably horrific. And of course, they saw them as just essentially savages. And Wickus did too, and then he began to realize that they were actually smart and technologically advanced and very much human, quote, human, as they cared for each other, so they were as good a people as humans are. All right, that's all I'm going to say for now. WB follows it up.
Thank you, Brenda. Yes, the devil's in the details, isn't it? next up is N5SQA, Ron, who actually saw District 9, and then after Ron comes Sean, KB9SOK. So we'll start with Ron. N5SQA from KE5ICX. Go ahead.
Well, I know you're all waiting for Sean, so I'll just simply say I thought the movie was okay. It cost me $4 to watch it. It was worth the $4. My wife wasn't as taken with it. Lots of the comments I heard, I agree with, but it was at the end of the day just a movie. N5SQA.
Oh, ooh, okay. All right. Well, we'll try again on the next round. Let's see. Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on the plot, and then after that comes James, KG5PMN. So, Sean, begin from KE5IC.
This is KB9SOK. Yeah, I actually enjoyed this movie. I remember when it came out, the buzz about it, and I forget the gentleman's name that mentioned the whole internet buzz that they were doing, because I do remember that was a big thing that they were pushing, the fake websites and stuff, and there was a couple years there, yeah, some movies were doing that, and it was kind of neat, and I remember one of the things that actually did convince me to see the movie, but after seeing the movie, yeah, it's a good, solid movie. Obviously, everybody's kind of really covered the main thing. Obviously, this is showing humanity at its worst. Initially, we were trying to help them, but then we really just let them down, and it's kind of shown that some of the human history, things that we've done to each other in the past, and obviously that was the biggest focus of this movie. As far as like some of the plots, yeah, I agree. There's a few holes. The chemical part didn't make a lot of sense for the fuel. That could have easily been remedied by just simply saying that he got into something different other than the fuel. So there's a few little things, yeah, they could have fixed probably quite easily and explained. I agree. I was wondering why they were there and never got that answered. And then, initially, I'd kind of gotten the impression from the movie that maybe they had no choice to leave their home, but yet in the end they wanted to go home. So that must not be the case. That part was a little confusing. And then the other thing that kind of confused me as far as the plot is how they got all the weapons from off the ship. Because if we brought them down from the ship, how did they get back up there to get their weapons and bring them down? So that part didn't make any sense. As far as the crazy weapons, this movie obviously had a little bit of what I would consider kind of like a British sense of humor, where, yeah, that part was just kind of, I really do believe was just kind of a little bit of comedy break in it, just like, the main guy just being a little bit so naive and, in his comments and stuff. So I think there was supposed to be a little bit, kind of distract you a little bit from the, obviously the big political message they were trying to talk about there. And I actually thought, as far as the action and the character development, I thought it was very well balanced. Actually, I thought there was just the right amount of action, and just the right amount of, character development and getting the message across. I actually thought it was really well balanced and enjoyed it. Yeah, I would have liked a little bit happier ending, but I think that they definitely got their point across. That's really all I got. Back to net control. This is KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean, and good comments. And actually, I got tons of notes in here from what everybody has said, which gives me like a little better platform to talk about what I think's going on. Although you can say otherwise when it's all said and done. All right, next is wait a minute. Let me is James KG5PMN. After that, I'll open it up and then I'll make my comments. So James, KG5PMN, your thoughts on District 9 from 2009 from KE5ICX.
This is KG5PMN. I was kind of lost. I only got about the first hour of it, and after he got into the basement, I think, looking around and found that fuel and whatever else the alien had down in there. Somehow, I don't know what happened to the signal, but I got a message that the video couldn't be played, and I couldn't figure out how to get back into it, so I only caught about the first hour, and I guess between all the news interviews and the almost the narration type thing, and that was kind of confusing for me. And maybe if I'd been able to get further into the movie and get a little further into the plot, I figured out they were trying to get the people to move for some reason. I never did really get that either, but trying to get them to move out and move somewhere else. And I don't know, the first hour of the movie was just kind of confusing for me. Back to the net, KG5PMN.
Thank you, James, and good comments. I'll go ahead and ask, anyone else would like to join us this evening? Tonight's movie is, we're talking about Precinct 9 from 2009, Alien Invasion. Well, maybe we don't know. We don't know why the aliens are there. But if you would like to join us this evening, and you please come with your call sign, your name, your location if you'd like to give that, and did you see District 9, either recently or in the distant past? Any additional check-ins, please come out.
Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Hotel, Juliet.
I think I got Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Hotel Juliet. Your name, please. Did you see District 9?
Correct. I did see District 9 back when it was new years ago. At the time, I remember thinking the movie was overrated, and I did not like the parallels that it was drawing between history being portrayed up on the screen. But looking back on it now, I believe that we do need a movie like that every decade or so to remind us of the horrors and the atrocities that have been committed in our past, and to better ourselves and say we're not going to do that again. So if we don't remind ourselves of the past, we're doomed to repeat it. Or learn the past, and we're doomed to repeat it. I firmly believe it. Other than that, the plot was okay. Trodden on stuff that's been done before. The characters were decent, and overall it was a good movie. I won't watch it again, but it was still a good movie.
All right, very good. Thanks. Let's see. I'm going to make my comments on this, and it really comes on the comments that others have made. One of the things, and I'm not going to rehash what everybody else has said, but I will mention a couple of things. There was some question about why was the spaceship there, and what was its, why were the why were the aliens, in the condition that they were, and where should they have been, through all this? Well, all right, let me give you an analogy, and this may be somewhat improbable in today's world, but even if you say 50 years ago, let's say that you're in a DC-9, or you're in some jet aircraft, you're a passenger, and you're flying over the Amazon, and something happens to the aircraft, and it crashes. And now you are surrounded by whatever Amazonian people that are there who thrive and do really well, and they come across you and they see this mystical, magical thing on the ground. But when you get out of it, suddenly now you're not so mystical and magical. You're just an ordinary person, flesh and blood, and they decide whatever it is they want to do with you, they can do with you, because this is their terrain, this is their area. And they still don't know anything about you or where you came from, and nor could it actually be, could you explain it to them in any terms that make any sense. So I can see that as a potential that the people on board the spacecraft, with the exception of the father and the son, knew anything about the technologies overtly, that they knew about them. That part was kind of interesting, but that they had no control over it. Another thing that was mysterious, and I can't explain it, is that I believe they were throwing overboard these technologies. The weapons and things were actually being thrown off the mother ship at some point. I have to go back and look at it. Like Billy says, you have to go back and watch it 2 or 3 times. There's some dense things going on in there that are just kind of really quick, like in news reports and that, but could create have critical information in them that help to explain or forward the plot some. They expect you to kind of figure this stuff out, sort of like 2001 in its own way, only more in a news-like format and more in a more contemporary thing than what was going on back in the 60s. Another thing that comes about, and it's really interesting too, is this takes place over decades. So the aliens are kind of like accepted as just, humanitarian, and then that need, assistance. Now that they're there and they're living in this place, and there's kind of this squalor is created, now people are acting against them, and we've seen this so many times in history and fairly recently as well. They end up being the bad guys, and the MNU, which is another example, it's sort of like Blackwater was in Iraq, and that they were doing things without impunity. They were a professional organization. They were a commercial organization, and things get out of control because if you're not watching this stuff, and there's no who watches the watchers, who are the overseers in all of this, things get out of control as well, and then they become oppressed. It's very easy for that sort of thing to happen when you're the one with the guns. So you got to be very, very careful, and it's a cautionary tale, I think, because things can happen, particularly when you're talking over a long period of time, because things happen in very slow motion. But in a movie, you only got 2 hours, and then suddenly you're looking at something that's greatly changed from what it begins with, and you're kind of left with this shock. A simple example might be, let me reset. It's something simple, like when you go and you look at a picture of yourself when you're a kid, you're in your teens or even grade school or something, you say, is that me? You go, I don't look anything like that anymore. Well, the same thing applies here. Is this my land? Are these my people? It doesn't look like it anymore. It can be very shocking, but over a very long period of time, you don't notice it as quickly. Another thing too, well, we can get into that characterization, and I'll skip that. Let me see here. The floating spaceships, always a good thing. I like everybody's comments about it. They love it, they hate it, they can't understand it. But remember, one of the greatest things that comes about, I think that this is actually in Childhood's End, the Arthur C. Clarke story, which has the big, huge spaceships, and then finally was materialized in, I think, the series was the first to really do that, and then everybody else copied it. When you have a big capital ship over a major city, it's intimidating, and the people underneath are really wondering what that's all about. Well, we've got this same thing going on here, in that the aliens are threatening with this technology, but then we've got the aliens down on the ground, and we've got control over the aliens. So what does that mean? Who has control over what? It's this cycle, this catalyst, this sort of feedback loop that goes on because of it. I thought it was a great idea. I think that the capital ship idea, the big ships over Earth, is a classic sci-fi trope, but I think it still works, particularly with the special effects in this, which we'll talk about later. Okay, well, let's see. Oh boy, we better get going here. This is a good discussion. So let me go ahead and begin with number one, K5A&E. We're going to talk about characterization. So Kate, your thoughts on characterization. Go ahead from KE5ICX.
And just a heads up, I've lost my +1. He's turned in for the night, but I'll continue on here. And yeah, characterization. Gosh, I really like this main character, and the actor portrays him so well. And you know, he really portrays this, you know, mindless bureaucrat. You know, he's just a generic family guy. You know, loves his wife, kind of a thing. Is just looking to get his job done and go home and, you know, kiss his wife goodnight. You know, like that's his only drive and passion in life, is to just have his normal desk job. And, you know, this is his big chance to kind of, you know, get that pay raise and have a little bit more salary to come home to, and, you know, make his wife just a little bit happier. And, you know, he doesn't really care necessarily about everything that's going on. You know, he just wants to go back home. And yet he's thrown into this situation where suddenly he's this incredibly important figure of, you know, combining understandings of both these aliens and humanity. And, you know, he stumbles quite a bit on his path here to trying to figure out exactly, you know, what he's supposed to be doing, and, you know, what's good and what's bad. And I really liked how they portrayed him as, you know, he thinks he's doing, you know, a good job and doing a good thing by, you know, he thinks he's helping the, you know, the aliens at first, and yet, even though he thinks that he's doing a good thing for the aliens, he's using the derogatory name for the aliens. And I just really thought that was really important to showcase, just how ingrained in society at that time, in this movie, you know, that these are the others, and, you know, it doesn't really matter, you know, we're going to help them, yeah, okay, and relocate them into, you know, tent city, and, you know, tent city number 3 now, or something like that, you know, as they just keep kind of pushing the aliens out. And instead of actually really trying to understand them and help them, they're just kind of shuffling the problem out further. And I feel like they did a really good job with the main character overall, and just his portrayal of everything is just on point. K5A&E, back to net.
Kane, good comments. Next is N5BB. Bill, your comments on characterization. Go ahead. KE5ICX. Oh, by the way, we're talking about District 9. Go ahead.
BB, yes, District 9, the 2009 movie. First, I have a question. Tom, was this movie owned or distributed by Sony?
Oh, who was it? To look it up. What is it? TriStar Films, I think. What's the one with the flying Pegasus? Those are the people.
Right. I just forget which of these things Sony owns and doesn't. The reason is I noticed that the laptop computer that they were using at one point was a Sony, Vaio, V-A-I-O or whatever, which of course doesn't exist anymore. You know, no matter how much they try to pick something which is state of the art, anything can be canceled. Any project. So it's always kind of interesting. I agree with Kane. I thought the main character, protagonist, was portrayed. I thought the acting was great. That was the first feature film that actor had been in. The first feature film. He was a friend of the director, and I thought he did a really good job. One thing I did think involving direction of the film was I thought they pushed his character a little far with being a bumbling idiot when he was going out with the clipboard and trying to get people's signatures. They were trying to add a little bit of comedy there, I believe, and I understand that, and but they pushed that about as far as they needed to. It was kind of on the edge there, going a little too far with him being clueless with what he was doing. But he developed as the movie went on, etc. As far as characterizations, the bad guy was really, really bad. The head of the main guy out there, the colonel or whatever he was for the MNU that was out there, who seemed to survive all the other things, and at the end of the movie, you weren't sure if he was going to kill the protagonist or not. And so they ended the movie so they could continue it. when the alien spacecraft has gone away, but they don't know it had gone very far away. Is it going to be back in a day, a week, a month, or 3 years? And what about the protagonist? What happens to him? Was he arrested? Was he killed? Was he put in prison? Who really knows? What about his arm? Well, right at the end of the movie, you did get the idea that if you caught that, the very last scene, that his wife got this little sculpture, and then you saw that he was now fully alien in making them. So I do think to answer that, just slipping that in at the very end, if you blinked your eyes, you missed that last scene. But it wasn't clear whether, evidently some of him is still in that creature because he made that for his wife. But where was he? Why didn't they arrest him? Why didn't they kill him? I didn't understand that. But as far as the characterizations, I think they were okay. His father-in-law, his wife's father, was we got to do it for the government kind of guy, and was willing to kill his son-in-law to get the information they wanted, because it was a great military significance. But that was kind of stock characterization. I don't know. I think they were okay. I think the actors were okay. But I don't think that the writers went out on a limb with any intriguing characterizations. Okay? It's all pretty formulaic. Okay? That's my view. That's the downside of this. I really don't think this movie had very much imagination in it. When it really comes down to significant imagination. But I think it's still enjoyable. And BB.
All right, thank you, Bill, and I have some notes for that, too. Thank you. I got to admit, one of the things I really enjoy about this net, and I think it's probably my favorite, is that people's different points of view and how they see the film, and their comments in particular help to open up different ideas and different ways of looking at the film critically. And I think that's why when critics do films, you'll see a wide variety of opinions as to the merits of the film, how good was it, which is exactly what we do. We review the movies. But I really think it's interesting because it opens up. Everybody has different ideas about what they see, and preconceptions and dispositions, because we all have different experiences. But I just thought I'd mention that because I really, particularly when we get a good film, it's easy to kind of lambaste the bad movies, but the good movies are the ones that evoke interest and thought are the best. Okay, I'll shut up. That's not my turn. Next is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, your thoughts on District 9 characterization from KE5ICX. Go ahead.
This is KG5BGW. Okay, characterization. I agree a lot with what Bill said about the main character. That's the character sees the most growth and well, I don't know. It's like I don't know if I can top what Bill said, so I'll talk about some other things. We've got the characters and the the news stories, which they seem actually pretty reasonable for a pseudo documentary, whatever you want to call it. A documentary that's transitioned from, I don't know. But when we get to it, where the story actually kind of develops, the human characters were frankly, kind of evil. And yeah, there were a lot of stock characters, and I would have to say kind of formulaic, but I don't know that that's avoidable in this kind of film, because you're going to have one character interacting with a lot of characters, and it's just like, what can you do to what people or entities or whatever you want to call them. Interesting show of the it's almost sad to me. I don't know if that an official positive name for the aliens, so I guess I'm gonna call them aliens instead of the something of the slur / not slur. Well, they look like prawns. Interesting comment in the middle of the film right there. The child and father figure alien was a little bit clearly they were. It's like I kind of feel like they were added to make the plot go along, and they could have maybe made a little bit of better effort with them, but at the same time, I don't know that the film is strictly. It's not really about them. It really is about the main character. So it's like you just can't really develop them that much. The main character himself is, I mean, he's going a very literal forced alignment, which I felt like the transformation was almost a metaphor for it. Might be slightly over the top if you think about it too much, but I thought it worked more or less all right for the film. I don't know that you need to think too much about it, because it brings up all those. It's like, well, what's like they trying to explain the MacGuffins, like the other guy mentioned. It's like, no, those are just plot devices. You don't need to explain certain things. Anyway, I think that more or less covers all that I was going to say, so I'll hand it to the next person, KG5BTW. Back to net.
Thank you, Jay. And next up is K1GBD. That's Guy. We're talking about District 9 from 2009, and we're up to characterization. So, Guy, go ahead. Your thoughts. All right, we're starting to get late, so people may be dropping off, but let me move on, and I'll come back to Guy in a little bit. KF5PDS, Miss Billy, your thoughts on characterization. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Well, yeah, for the main character, Vickis von der Merwe, I thought the name was interesting, and I was looking in the trivia, and the surname von der Merwe is actually a common Afrikaner name, and it also happens to be, they have a whole series of jokes, so it's kind of a name of a buffoonish person who they have like as the butt of a bunch of jokes, and a lot of cultures have that, kind of person, that you can make jokes about. So I thought that was appropriate naming for the character. I think that was very intentional on the writer's part, because that's part of South African culture. So, and he did come across as kind of klutzy, buffoonish at the start, and the least likely person to be put in charge of a Department of Alien Affairs. It seemed like the last person you'd want in charge. And of course, he goes out in the field and has like total disregard for safety. He's putting on a bulletproof vest. The man who's coming out with him has none, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry about it." That poor guy is like hiding behind these big tires and things, trying not to get shot, and Vickis is just marching right out in the middle of it. And then, of course, he goes into the shack, and he has no disregard for his own safety. It's like he's just opening things and sniffing things, and so it's no wonder he stumbles into this situation, where the stuff gets sprayed on him. But I found his character very, I did not, at first I kind of liked, I thought he was a likable, geeky, klutzy kind of guy, kind of your nebbish character. But then when he was like very cheerfully describing how the alien eggs were popping like popcorn, I immediately stopped liking him. I just, at that point, it's like, his cheerful attitude towards his job was just unnerving, unsettling, and just seemed wrong. It was not the type of person, not the type of attitude you should have, like cheerfully going to evict people from their homes. And it was just really creepy to me, to the way he did that. And I thought it was very ironic that he was the one that got, transformed, because before he had seemed to have no regard for them at all, and then he gained regard, obviously, when they were making him shoot, in the experiments. He was clearly traumatized by that. And I found that at the very end very sad when they show the alien making the metal rose and it's him. I thought that was very, very sad. The wife, I felt very sorry for her, because she is, she loves her husband and she wants to do the right thing, but she is, caught in this situation, and her father is being very, callous and lying to her. And I thought that was just very evil. Here they were going to tear him apart to figure out what makes him tick, and he's over there telling her they're trying to save his life and they're doing everything they can for him. So I thought that was just really wrong as well. I thought it was interesting at the end when she has the middle rose and she's talking about talking about how he likes to leave gifts for her, that she has pictures of sonograms on the mirror, so that gives an indication that she is expecting a baby. And I was like, that leaves open for a sequel, especially with the alien going off saying he's going to come back in 3 years. So I thought that was interesting. I thought it was fun that the alien, his name was Christopher Johnson. It just makes me think they gave them all names, kind of like in Alien Nation when they named, the character like San Francisco. They had thoroughly Earth, Terranized names, and so I thought that was interesting. I thought the alien clicking language was neat because in Africa they do have like clicking languages, and so I didn't know if that was the alien's actual language or did the alien actually learn like one of the African clicking languages, and that's how the Afrikaner population understood the actual South African Johannesburg population. That's how they're able to converse with them, or did they learn the alien language over the course of the 28 years that they were there? So I thought that, to me, was, either way it'd be interesting. And then, of course, the aliens, you see them acting kind of disgusting and gross, but then you see Christopher Johnson with his little one, and the way he's, like, encouraging him and patting him on the head. And the little one was just very endearing, trying to show Vicus that they were the same. When he's, like, putting his arm up next to his arm saying, "We are the same." I felt the most for that little character. For, I guess if you want to call him little CJ, I felt the most for him, that little young alien, I thought hearing. Other than that, I'm sure other people have things to say, so I'll return it to you, Tom. This is KFI PDS, back to net.
Thank you, Billy. And I did take notes on your comments, too. Well, I take notes on everybody's comments, but really interesting stuff. Let me go back to Guy. Kilo 1, Golf Bravo Delta. Guy, are you there? We're talking about characterization. We missed you, but it's not unusual for people to doze off or otherwise wander away. Guy, are you there? All right, I think he's checked out. We're going to mark him as checked out. Next up, NT5TM. Tony, your thoughts on characterization from KE5ICX.
Well, I mean this in a good way. I don't have a whole lot to add. The characters were, in both cases, very stock and predictable. The mercenaries were all evil. Our protagonist was very bumbling at first. The aliens were more benevolent than we thought. There was not a lot of surprise in the department of characterization. But nevertheless, thanks to, some careful plotting, that still managed to work. So although I was not terribly impressed by any sophistication in the characters, they did fit well, and they helped us tell a good... Well, they helped the movie, not me. I didn't work on this. They helped the movie tell a good story. So not a whole lot to add. They contributed, but they were nevertheless very simple. NT5TM.
Tony, and this is KE5ICX. And my name's Tom, and we're talking about the movie District 9 from 2009. So next up, I have Miss Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, your thoughts on characterization?
WB50ZL. Well, like everybody else, I thought the main character was just a goofball in the beginning, and I couldn't find much sympathy for him. Especially when he's threatening to take away the child because the guy wouldn't leave his house. But he, of course, he changed and he grew, and you did like him a lot, and he was willing to sacrifice. And I mean, that's interesting part of the story, is his transformation. Bad guys were really bad. So a lot of this was real formulaic. Bad guys are really bad, good guys are really good. So, but, it worked. That's all I can say. And I think the aliens are kind of fascinating. I guess they're all CG'd. I haven't seen any information on it, but they were so realistic and so creepy. But I don't know why they didn't learn each other's language. How hard would that have been? But they seem to understand each other, which they never explain that. So, alright, I'm getting really tired. I'm going to stop now. WV50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And obviously, we'll have an impromptu third round just because we've had a lot of comments tonight. We're reaching midnight. So we'll finish off this round, and then we'll open it up for any final comments. So next up is N5SQA. Ron, your thoughts on characterization from KE5ICX. I'm going to check Ron out. I kind of figured that might happen. Sean, KB9SOK, your comments on characterization.
KB9SOK. Yeah, don't have a lot of comments there. Yeah, I do think many of the characters were pretty predictable, but I do think it was decently acted. Kind of just your classic bad guys were definitely classic. And then, obviously the main character obviously was the main the goal of this and his transformation, as everybody said. But I do think it was, decent, and I do think it was well acted. I really don't have a lot additional to say, so since we're getting late, I'll hand it back to Net Control. This is KB9SOK.
Thanks, Sean. Next up is KG5PM and James over in Oklahoma. Is he there? Yes, he is. James, your thoughts on characterization. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
W5FC.
This is KG5PMN. Characterization, I really didn't get far enough into the movie to really get any good characters developed. I guess that gentleman that was with the government agency, when he got with the alien, I don't know if he turned out to be a pretty good guy or not. Back to the net, KG5PMN.
Very good. Thank you, James. I'll make this comment. Let me see here, some of the things to keep up with what's going on here. Some folks talked about lack of characterization, and that's true as far as we had trope characters, stereotypical characters through the whole thing. But don't forget, 2001: A Space Odyssey had the same thing. None of the characters are very interesting. Who was the most interesting character in that movie? Hal 9000. What was going on in his head? That was most important. I think that perhaps our characters, or the focus of characterization in this film, was actually on the aliens, the three aliens, and specifically probably the child, JC, or CJ, I guess. And Christopher, being named Christopher of all things, could be a character that we cared about. Everybody else was more or less a stereotype, which is usually the reverse of what happens in movies like this in regards to the focus. But in any case, I thought that was really interesting. Let's see. Hang on a second. Some of the comments about coming back in 3 years. Yeah, well, that's to be expected. They're doing interstellar travel in whatever speed that thing goes at. It's probably at a fourth gear. So 3 years is the time it takes, a year and a half to get someplace, a year and a half to get back, or maybe a year to get there, a year to get back, and 1 year to argue about whether they should even do that. So I don't know, or half a year of arguing over that. So who knows? I don't know. I was trying to read some of my notes, but I can't quite do that. So let's do this. It is midnight, which is fine. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to any comments anywhere, any place. If you've got something you want to bring to the net. Now remember, we don't have we have a 3-minute timeout because we're back on regular repeater usage. So remember to reset after a few comments. So anybody who would like to make any final comments, please come with your call sign now, and I'll take you in order.
WD5 BPX.
Kilo Echo 0 Foxtrot Tango.
Time is 12:05 a.m.
Oh, very good. I kind of ignored the echoing, folks. I'm very sorry about that. I've got Bobby, WD5 BPX, and I got Kilo Echo 0. Wait a minute. Kilo Echo 0 Foxtrot Tango, who is listening. But I'll start with BPX. So, Bobby, go ahead. It's good to hear you this evening. Your comments, anything you want to say about the movie, go ahead, from KE5ICX. Usual. I'll come back to them. Next is Kilo Echo 0 Foxtrot Tango. Anything you'd like to say about the movie, or are you just checking in? Go right ahead from KE5ICX.
Hey, good evening. Thanks for bringing me in. I just wanted to check in. You know, I don't remember for sure if I saw this movie or not, and that's typically how I am. I do like science fiction movies, and I may have seen it. I may get halfway through the movie and then realize that I've seen it. But this discussion made me think that I need to check it out and see whether I have seen it or not. I think that I have not, but I really enjoyed the net, and I will check in again in the future. I just found this link to this EchoLink conference somewhere today, and thought I'd check it out, so I will be back. So thanks for the net, and have a good evening. KE0FFT, driving through Indiana on my way to Illinois tonight. So have a good night, 73.
Very good. Well, I'm glad we were able to provide some interesting entertainment for you, and you stuck with us. So excellent. That's great. And I've driven that route before myself. It's been a few years, but I have. Let's see. WD5 BPX. Bobby, any final comments? Are you there? I got you checked in, but go ahead.
Oh, I'm having trouble tonight. Ain't nothing working right. Computer's not working right. No radios. I was been in and out on this. I think I might be in right now. So, but I enjoyed the comments. Strange enough, it might have stirred enough interest for me to go look up the old movie and watch it. Everybody have a good night and be safe. I've enjoyed it.
checking in, Bobby, and it's good to hear from you. And for everybody on the net this evening, we're going to go ahead and close it down. Next week's movie, are you ready? It's not a clunker. It is Superman from 1978. From 1978. I think it's still there. It's on Internet Archive. I'll send you the information. If you are not on the weekly list, you can send an email to me, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX at yahoo.com. So you just want to be added to the movie list, and I'll send you the links to the films. Also, if that's not your thing, you can go to Facebook, look for Afterglow Movie. That's 2 words, Afterglow and Movie, and sign up there, and you'll also get the information on the coming movie for next week, as well as a couple of weeks in advance if they're still available. So that's the plan, Superman from 1978. It was a great discussion this evening. Thanks to everybody. This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this one. Maybe one of my favorites of all time. So we'll see you again. 7-3, everybody. Have a good weekend. I think we're going to have a nice day tomorrow. Warm and very spring-like because it's spring. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear. Bye-bye.